චන්ඩි පැන්ඩා සමට සූදු බවට ඇමරිකාවෙන් සහතිකලත් එකම විෂබීජනාශක සබන්.
Parliamentarians representing the government, including Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, were offered seats in the government side of the House, while parliamentarians of the United National Party were offered seats in the opposition. Speaker announced to the House that he will no longer recognise any Prime Minister or a cabinet of ministers within the Parliament.
As a no-confidence motion was passed yesterday, that is the 14th of November of 2018, the Cabinet of Ministers is now dissolved in accordance with the sub-article 2 of Article 48 of the Constitution. And as a new Prime Minister or a Cabinet of Ministers are not yet appointed, I will not recognise any Prime Minister, Cabinet Minister, Deputy Minister, State Minister, Leader of the House or any position held by the government. I decided that everyone must be seated, just like how it was done yesterday, for the convenience of the proceedings. Also, it is only the Speaker who can decide on standing orders, and Speaker's decisions can only be challenged within the House. I give the floor to Honourable Parliamentarian Mahinda Rajapaksa now.
පළවෙනියෙන් ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඔබ විසින් යවන ලද ලිපියට පිළිතුරු වශයෙන් ඔබගේ තීරණය ලිපිය ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරමින් ජනාධිපති යවන ලද නිවේදනය කියවන්න.
ඒකට මගේ පිළිතුරත් එක්ක මම ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. මමත් පිළිතුරක් අරිනවා ජනාධිපතිතුමාට. දෙකම ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඒ අයිතිය මටත් තියෙනවා. දැන් කතා කරන්න දෙන්න. ඒක මෙතන කියන්න අවස්ථාවක් නෑ. මම පිළිතුර අරින්න කතා කරන්න දෙන්න. I am not allowing that. දෙන්නේ නෑ මං. ඔව්. I have given the floor to Honourable Mahinda Rajapaksa. මම තීරණය කරන්නේ. I decide on that. පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ මම තීරණය කරන්නේ.
කතානායකතුමනි
ඒක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවක් අවස්ථාව දෙන්නකො මේක ලෝකෙට මොකද්ද දෙන්නේ පණිවිඩේ ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමාට අවස්ථාව දෙන්න හැදිරෙන්න ගරු මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා කතා කරලා නෑ කතාන් මැතිතුමා
අන්ත්‍රී උඩත් අගමැති උඩත් නිකම් මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ උඩත් මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහින්ද අතක තියාගන්න එක අත මේක ලොකු නෑ එයාට ලොකුයි මට ලොකු නෑ මම මේක ඉඳලා තියෙනවා ජනාධිපතිකම් කරලා තියෙනවා අගමැතිකම් කරලා තියෙනවා මේ අගමැතිකම කියන එක ලොකුවක් නෙවෙයි මට ඒකින්ද හිතන්න එපා අගමැතිකමට මේ කතා කරනවා කියලා මේක හජ්ජක්ද මේ රටේ අගමැතිවරේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයක් මේ රටේ නෑ
අම්බියාජක මං ආය ඔරේ නෝ ඒක දන්නවද යා හරි
ඉතිහාසයේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ
කතා කරන්න දෙන්න
අඳුරු දවසක් දැක්කේ නෑ ඉතිහාසෙ
I have never seen a darker day than yesterday in the history of this parliament. The president clearly mentioned his reasons for establishing an interim government. The public was under pressure by the 26th of October. The increasing fuel prices because of a pricing formula, rupee depreciation, the intolerable debt burden, the central bank bond scam in the meantime led to the increase of interest rates by twice as much. They were preparing to sell the country's ports, airports and other national resources. And they were soliciting bribes from foreign investors. The country was disappointed because of all this. The UPFA then left the unity government. It was then that the president, as per powers vested on him through the constitution, invited me to take the premiership and establish a new government. My only options were to either accept the president's invitation or not. I could have easily let the UNP stay in power for the rest of the tenure of this government because there was only a year left. But then we were the main opposition force, even though the Speaker never accepted us. We only established an interim government in the hope of holding a general election. And when the President dissolved the Parliament to call for a general election, political parties, including the UNP and the JVP, went to the Supreme Court demanding the election be stopped. This happened for the first time in the country's history. This party was the very same party which postponed the local authorities election and the provincial council election without any shame. The country was filled with fresh hopes when I took over the country. In collaboration with Western ambassadors and his political party, the Speaker claims that a no-confidence motion has been passed against me as per majority voice within the House. This is unconstitutional and undemocratic. You can't pass motions by voice. You could have just taken a proper vote instead of listening to voices. It is the President who appoints the Prime Minister and Cabinet of Ministers of the country, not the Speaker. Do not misunderstand the powers vested on you, Speaker. The Constitution hasn't given you or the Parliament that power. But you already know this and still misuse your power to do otherwise. There are arguments between two parties here. So, without trying to resolve this issue amongst us, the 225 parliamentarians, let's hand over the responsibility to over 15 million voters of this country. As per the constitution, it is the public and not the parliament which holds the supreme power. I'm happy that the JVP said yesterday that they will support a general election if it came to that. What does the UNP say? I ask you to join hands with me to hold a fair election in the country. I'm urging all 225 parliamentarians to join and let's go for an election. Don't think about your pensions, the boss will do something about it. Even if fuel prices in the global market were reduced, local prices increased because of a pricing formula. I will reduce the fuel prices once more. Honourable Speaker, we expect you to be an unbiased speaker. It's regrettable that you stand with your political party and Westerners.
However, refuting the statement by the Prime Minister, UNP parliamentarian Lakshman Kiriyala called on the House to take a vote on the Premier's statement.
Point of order. Parliamentary Mantri Mahinda Rajapaksa.
I say we have no confidence on parliamentarian Mahinda Rajapaksa and his speech. I ask to take a vote by name.
By name.
With the suggestion by parliamentarian Lakshman Kiriyala to call a vote by name in objection of the Prime Minister's speech, a tense situation arose in the House. The government MPs closed in on the Speaker's seat and began to argue with the Speaker. MPs of the opposition also got involved and the argument turned into a brawl.
Hey, Nata, I named that.
In the midst of this chaos, cameras captured UNP parliamentarian Palitha Thevara Peruma having a knife in his possession. The Speaker lost control of the House as objects were hurled at the Speaker by members of the government. This led to the Speaker vacating his seat. During the tense situation, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and the leader of the UNP Ranil Wickremesinghe were seen leaving the house. UPFA parliamentarian Dilum Amunugama sustained injuries during the tussle and was admitted to the Sri Javardhanapura hospital.
The events that occurred today were utterly disgraceful. The reality and the truth is they do not have a majority in parliament. So whenever there's an opportunity for a floor test to be conducted, our opponents resort to violence and thuggery to stop the democratic process. So if one very intricately followed the events that took place this morning, whenever the Honourable Speaker attempted to go for a floor vote, that was rubbished. Are we not going to hear the voice of the parliamentarians?
So they're challenging now, if you enjoy the majority in parliament, a letter be handed to the president with 150 signatures. And if you all do that, the current prime minister will resign soon after that.
If the signatures are the main instrument of expressing one's opinion and political allegiances, it's fraudulent and so on and so forth. But the best thing is for a voice call of vote.
There is an agenda here in Parliament. How do you attend to as a speaker? So he's violating everything. So when you violate everything, what will happen? All the other MPs come and oppose it. That is what has happened here.
We condemn how they have been acting within the Parliament. Most of the parliamentarians who are representing joint opposition and SLFP were behaving like thugs. They were threatening Honourable Speaker. They were throwing water bottles, garbage cans. What they did was unprecedented and unacceptable.
We vehemently condemn the deliberate efforts of the Speaker to destroy the image of the country by bringing foreign ambassadors to the Parliament.
They didn't want the vote coming in because we had the majority, and constantly the parliament has a majority on one side and the parliament practices the speaker should be able to be convinced the majority is held by one party and they should be appointed prime minister. So this was unconstitutionally removed prime minister, unconstitutionally dissolved parliament. So Sri Lanka has become a laughing stock in the world right now.
Well, it's so unfortunate. We have never seen such partial conduct of a speaker in Sri Lankan history. It was obvious that the speaker was taking the stand of his party. The speaker announced that there is no prime minister and that he doesn't recognize the government, which is beyond his authority.
So whatever is said and done, can the attack on the speaker justified? Can violence be allowed in parliament?
Violence cannot be accepted. But it's so unfortunate. There was a parliamentarian who had a knife. I don't want to name the person. The solution is nothing but an election.